Hello, everyone, and welcome to another fully live episode of Hacking with Friends. I got kicked off the Wi-Fi immediately before and was diving under the desk to plug into the Ethernet, but it's too late now, so let's see how things go. My name is Kody KIlian. I'm a security researcher at Varonis, and today I'm joined by my good friend and fellow hacker, KIlian. KIlian, thank you for joining us again.
It's been forever. I'm glad
I
we could make it
know.
work. I know we've been talking and you've been places and I've been traveling and it's been too long. It feels like forever. It's been since June maybe? Was I on
I
in
think
July at
so.
all?
I think so.
Dang.
It's really crazy because I was supposed to be hanging out with you in North Carolina,
Mm-hmm.
and then very notably, I got sick last week. Still did the stream on Friday, but I would say Joe Biden's debate performance might have been a little bit better than my performance on that last stream, but that's okay. I was looking at the guys. No, none of you told me I was looking at the wrong camera the whole time. It looked like I was lost in like contemplative thought, but I just had no idea that my main camera had died 5 seconds into the stream. So oh well, live and learn. But I'm feeling a lot better. KIlian, I'm glad that you
Awesome.
managed to escape without getting sick with all this travel. It's just been with the big COVID surge and then running around to all these conferences. I've been
Mm.
honored by getting to present at 2 different conferences this year, which I've been excited to do. But man, it has come at a cost of jet lag and getting
Uh-huh.
sick by just encountering so many people. Although I have honestly really missed it. So yeah, it's good to be back. And KIlian, it's great to have you on the stream again. And I'm going to be seeing you very soon, actually, right? Like I'm
Right?
heading out on like the 6th. So by next week, I will solidly be at Blackhat and we will solidly be hanging out again.
Yes. No, it's gonna be awesome. I've been looking forward to this for a while. We talked about this ages ago. I was looking forward to hanging out in North Carolina, but now Black Hat's gonna be it because I think is that our last big conference for the year? I don't think that we're going in. At least I'm not. I don't think so.
Mm. Yeah,
It,
I know that
yeah.
the DEF CON Black Hat like
Mm-hmm.
punch is like that last one that gets you like as a hacker if you are going to all these conferences. Like they're so close together, back to back.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm going to be living in Las Vegas for like a week. I
Yeah.
have lots of outreach planned, and I'm going to be meeting lots of people. So it's going to be pretty crazy. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't think there's anything really beyond that. It feels like this kind of plateau where afterwards everyone's just like
Right.
tired and like finally has some time to breathe and just like needs to like chill for a little bit. So naturally, that's when I'm going to be looking for some other little conferences to pick up, like Wild West Hackin' Fest and some of
Yeah.
the other smaller ones. But because I like to see my people. But at the same time, I don't think I could be doing the like Black Hat, DEF CON,
Yeah.
RSAC thing like too much more often. This is
Mm-hmm.
about the most I've traveled ever, like since like
Yeah.
pre-pandemic. Like I got up to about this level, and I'm really struggling honestly to kind
Mm-hmm.
of match this pace now that we're back up and running again. I was like, how was I doing this before? And I'm
Yeah.
starting to do all these little tricks that I used to do, like putting my laptop and 2 other things in like a plastic bag and putting my like backpack up for long haul flights. I'm like, oh my god, like I'm right
Mm-hmm.
back where I used to be. So it's
Yeah.
good. It's good, but man, it is exhausting. So let's talk about Black Hat since it's so
Right.
soon. I feel like there's probably some people in our stream we'll actually get to meet. Is anybody in the chat going to Black Hat? I'm curious. It's one of those ones where it's a pretty good
Mm-hmm.
intersection between the people who might have been at RSAC and then will be at DEF CON. You
Yeah.
get a lot of them going to Black Hat. Um,
Yeah.
but if nobody confesses to going to Black Hat, and that's perfectly okay. I have been going to Black Hat for oh my gosh, like maybe like 6+ years or so, and I've
Mm-hmm.
been doing it as press. So if you're a content creator,
Right.
I always advise people give it a shot to try to reach out and see if you can get accepted by the conference as a content creator or as press. A lot of people try. If you make genuinely good content, I find that it's pretty easy to get
Mm-hmm.
into the conference and generate content from it. So if you sincerely like want to go and do an interview or something like that, I recommend it. Like I think that it's a good way to get into some of these big, more expensive conferences. But I know it is not always affordable for people if their company's not sending them there. That's the disadvantage with some of these really big conferences. So if you are going, there's a lot of really great talks, and like some of the like headline talks are crazy. I don't know if you saw that the
Yeah.
creator of Signal is one of the people that's doing a headline talk, and then we've got a bunch of talks. They're really like taking Jan from CISA out like extensively for these conferences. I see her talking everywhere, which is great.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of like Fed talks, which I think are interesting from a policy perspective, although they never go to a hacker conference and then go to like a talk by like a federal officer and then like they're gonna like spill the tea or like really give
All
you like
right.
a bunch of secrets, right? It's like they'll talk about policy and like maybe even some public specifics, but like they're not going to
Mm-hmm.
get in trouble. Um,
Sure.
But there is a lot of good stuff out there, and I wanted to shine a little bit of a focus also on Arsenal. So, KIlian, did I take you to Arsenal last year?
No, I know we talked about this, and I've been looking forward to it, but I didn't go last year. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I think I dragged one of the researchers booth doing the CTF. So last year, Varonis had a very cool cloud CTF. Wasn't it a Salesforce CTF or what?
It was a lot of fun because I spent a lot of time running that with folks, and it got so much positive attention. I didn't want to be like too marketing on it, but people like got really into it, and it was really cool to see like that level of excitement.
Yeah, it was like the difficulty tier of this like CTF that the Varonis people was running was like easy as pie, like a little challenging, and then like inscrutably hard, like very, very difficult. So they really kicked it up, but they let the first 2 levels were like pretty doable, and we covered them on the stream. But I got some of those guys to come with me and go to Blackhat Arsenal. So Blackhat Arsenal is where a lot of people kind of trot out the work that they've been doing for the last year, and then show off either like a hardware tool, a software tool, or some other really cool hacking tool that is suddenly like available for people to try. So a lot of this stuff is open source, but I don't believe that's a requirement. I'll have to double check, honestly. I don't totally remember. The only problem is like it is a little bit difficult to like actually like run through all this stuff and know what it is. So I went through and I just want to show off my screen here. This is the Arsenal schedule, and it's just like there's so much here. So this is actually kind of my specialty, because back when I did the Nullbyte show, like I would have to go on, you know, websites that were showing off like new hacking tools, and I would have to go through them and find out which ones were worth a shot and then cover them on the stream. So it's like, okay, like this is actually super cool. So I'm going to be going and probably taking a look at or maybe even interviewing like as many of these people as I can, because I love these sorts of tools, especially if they're well thought out. But if you haven't been to Arsenal, it's basically a bunch of like little booths all set up in like it was just like a cube last time.
Yeah.
And people with microphones and wildly varied levels of confidence for wildly varied levels of developed product. And by product, I mean like a tool you can actually run to do some sort of cool security thing. None of these, I believe, were for profit. I think most of them were free or freely available. So my favorite entry into this is Patrick Wardle. He makes a lot of macOS security tools that are fantastic. I use them on my computer, and I really, really like them. So anytime I see Patrick Wardle at one of these, I have to give him a shout out because he's always worth going over and checking out his tools. In my like taskbar up here, there are several of his tools like Lulu, which are currently running and making it harder for people to do bad stuff on my macOS system. So highly recommend that. But KIlian, you want to go through some of my picks for Arsenal this year?
I know. I would love to hear it. I know you've been poring over this list, like assembling it. We talked about this, like I said, a couple weeks ago, about all of the different things that we wanted to do. And I know you spent a lot of time like curating, maybe I'll oversell a little bit, but sort of a dream list of the things you wanted to see. So I'd love to hear kind of your take on what you find interesting and what you think people should check out.
Another Patrick Wardle enjoyer in the audience as well. Yes, Patrick. When I talk about like my hacker heroes or hacker mentors or people that I see who love their jobs, who are doing great work, who are making things that are having a meaningful impact on the community, like I think Patrick is like one of those examples. Like he makes really great tools. He is an excellent speaker, and his discoveries frequently make the news. So like if there's a macOS security like issue, either he's going to be commenting on it, he'll have a proof of concept, or he is the one that discovered the problem in the first place. So yeah, like I have to say, of the people that I shout out on the stream, he's consistently and very often in the news for positive reasons. All right, so do I really have to agree to all this? Ugh, no. All right, so here's where I have a little bit of a critique for people who are making these tools. It is always hard to name them, and just because you're good at writing software doesn't mean you're good at necessarily like communicating like what your tool does. I have read most of this, and I still don't know what this does. So I'm going to check this out because it sounds interesting, and I like the name Pizza Bite and Bruschetta because I'm hungry right now.
Sure.
But that may change. So it's claimed to be the hardware hacking toolkit.
Interesting.
Going through this big inscrutable list of like like different arsenal things, please, like wind buff, automated Windows patch diffing. That's all I want. I just need to know that. That's the only thing I needed to know. I don't need to know the whatever. So anyway, there was a couple of these that were very hard to tell what they did, and they might actually be better than what I'm talking about. So there are going to be some gems hidden in this big list that I missed because I just wasn't able to get through the paragraph or so that the people that created this thing required to understand exactly what it did. So one of the ones I'm going to be checking out is Cerberus with an S. This is a multi-headed hardware hacking tool, which caught my interest because UART, JTAG, SPI, I2C, and that one I don't recognize. But these are all interfaces where if I have a device and I want to like start debugging it or start interfacing with it, then I am looking for stuff that does that has some good development behind it. So that's why I'm interested in this particular piece of hardware. Also, a lot of these are software. So anytime I see a hardware demo, like it's a little bit more hands-on and I'm really interested. This one I'm really interested in, RF hacking on the road, logging tire sensors. So we've talked about like, oh, like automated license surveillance is so bad because it's collecting so much data. Well, this is, you know, arguably worse. Let me make this larger. Actually, wow, it just makes the cookies, fine. I did that for all of you. All right, so in this case, we've talked about how vehicles can be surveilled by looking at, you know, visual signs like the license plate and using a camera to collect that. But also there's ways that you can use the automated tire monitoring system, which will continuously check the tire pressure and send that information to the car. You can use the sensors that do that to also track vehicles as well, because they're essentially tagged. So looking at a software defined radio scanner that's going to specifically look for these and start logging them, that to me is really interesting because it starts building a open source surveillance net that could be meshed in interesting ways and start to see vehicle traffic flow. Now, is this already probably done by private companies? Absolutely. And that's why I think it's so useful and cool that it's now available for like, you know, hackers to check out our arsenal. So that's my endorsement for that one. I'm going to kind of zip through these because I know we got to be out of here at the top of the hour and we still got a lot of news to do. I have to do all these one by one. Preda 2. So I remember this original tool coming out and being interesting. So seeing the update to that is something that I want to see. So, all right, we've got leveraging various implementation weaknesses and vulnerabilities found on printers. So that's why I want to do this. Is I love attacking printers. I think attacking printers is cool. So being able to like extract basically use printers as the weakest link and be like, all right, there's secrets in these printers and I want to extract that and go through and maybe pull out Active Directory credentials or something like that. I love that. Like, so I'm very interested in printer hacking and thus I am interested in this arsenal talk. Some call me Tim, a novel lightweight triage and investigation platform. I do a lot of you know, investigations, and I'm on the lookout for both technical tools and also like social tools, and you know, other like OSINT tools. So anything that promises to be like a technical like OSINT tool is interesting to me. This one in particular looks like it's kind of focused on triaging suspicious activity, so it's a little bit outside what I'm usually interested in, but I still wanted to give it a shout out for looking interesting. We've also got 8man, the AWS Policy Evaluation Manager. So I was just talking about AWS IAM policies, and this was something that immediately interested me, despite this Amazon-style documentation of just a massive paragraph. So again, I'm interested in evaluating AWS policies as I've recently started like figuring out how they work and like written one. So this seems like a very interesting thing to check out if you're interested in cloud security. We also have hacking generative AI with pirates. So obviously generative AI is very interesting and it's running on tons of systems now as businesses attempt to squeeze some money out of AI. Again, very, very long, but at the bottom we've kind of got the core of it: scanning generative AI models using prompt injection techniques, supporting for various attack strategies, compatibility with Azure OpenAI LLM endpoints, so being able to target Microsoft-based endpoints, prompt converters, probe the Gen AI endpoint with a variety of converted prompts. Oh, like base 64 and ASCII. Love it. So these are some of the kind of like early vulnerabilities that were identified with LLMs. So turning it into a Python attack script, like that sounds so cool to me. I definitely want to check that out. All right, what's up next? living off the 0365 land with PowerPwn. So I vaguely remember PowerPwn, but like PowerShell is something that I've always wanted to be more, I guess, like proficient in. And this seems like something that would be very useful. So as PowerShell is installed on a lot of different Office 365 like compatible devices, I think that this would be something that I would definitely want to have under my tool belt. So I'm going to check it out. Next up, we've got advancing drone radio frequency warfare, innovations and countermeasures. I don't really need to like go any further into this. Like, you can probably imagine exactly why I'm interested in this one and why you probably would be too. All right, we've got network monitoring tools for macOS. This is Patrick Wardle's talk. The date is Wednesday, August 7th from 3:15 p.m. to 4:20 p.m. in the Business Hall, Arsenal Station 1. So he's going to go through a lot of his free tools. As I said, am a strong advocate of them. They constantly block, for example, Adobe from installing like a just like a bunch of stuff on my computer that I do not want. So yes, shout out to Patrick. Traffic Warden X, OpenWRT security and monitoring. So a lot of people like to give routers new life with OpenWRT. Security and monitoring then becomes very important as it is a juicy target. It is very powerful and open source. So the code is available for scrutiny. And there have been a lot of attack tools that are actually based on OpenWRT. So keeping an eye on that installation is probably a good idea. This stood out as interesting to me. AI.Passu. What if you could use generative AI to go around and like search for social media accounts and other things that might be related to a person and then generate passwords based on that? So there were some tools that I covered on Nullbyte where you would manually put in like that person's social media username, like any available information on the internet would be used to create a custom password list to try to crack into that person's password. So in this case, it's really interesting to see, like, what if we automated that process, which used to rely on the hacker finding that information and typing it manually? What if we had an AI instead go out onto the internet, gather it, and then enter it into a custom password list? That sounds crazy to me. All right, we've also got Bucket Loot, an automated S3 bucket inspector. So we talked a lot about how like Amazon services can potentially be abused, and also it's really easy to misconfigure them. So if we have a misconfigured S3 bucket, then a tool like this is exactly how, as a defender, we would audit it, and as an attacker, we would discover that and probably exfiltrate a bunch of data. OSINT collector. This is kind of enough said. Like, I really enjoy OSINT tools. This one has, again, a very, very, very long unbroken paragraph. But if they teach me even one new OSINT technique, this will be worth attending. The Metasploit framework. A lot of people use the Metasploit framework. And there's a new version that was released earlier this year. Multiple improvements. And the Metasploit's kind of the gold standard of tools. You can also tell by like how many paragraph breaks, like how many people are in charge of like making their stuff digestible. So based on the level of quality I'm expecting from Metasploit, I would say that this is absolutely worth checking out. That's going to be Thursday, August 8th, 10 a.m. A little early for me, but whatever. The Business Hall, Arsenal Station 4. All right, almost through it. So we've also got Octopi V2. This is a personally identifiable information scanner that uses optical character recognition. So being able to go through a bunch of like PDF files or other things, or even images that somebody might have snapped, looking through screenshots and other things like that. That's really what I find interesting here. Looking for government IDs, addresses, emails, and images, and basically scraping information. So if you were to, for example, gain access to a cloud account and then wanted to scan through and see if there's any PII in the photos that are there, this is a tool that would automatically do that. And that to me is crazy and probably very useful for threat actors, or, for anyone, I guess. So ICS GOAT is a damn vulnerable ICS infrastructure. And as we have a lot of like infrastructure hacking, some of these industrial automated systems like really need scrutiny, and they need people to understand how they work so that it's not just threat actors that are attacking SCADA systems. So I love this sort of thing because it allows people to basically have a SCADA lab in their home, and they can start to like run attacks or start to look for vulnerabilities using the skills they have with something live to practice against, which I feel like makes the education around SCADA hacking a lot easier. Okay. Oh, and that's just a continuation of the schedule. So that might have been it. We also have, Brian Vecchi's. Where did it go? Is it the first one? Well. I guess I'll have to I'll pull that up shortly. But we also have our very own Brian Vecchi, who is going to be doing a presentation on wasn't it on implementing AI, like Copilot and AI, like all the bad things that can happen?
Yeah, how to deploy or how to safely deploy AI copilots. This is one that I'm familiar with. I've run a similar session in the past, and this one always gets amazing feedback from people. It's especially in the corporate world, everybody is thinking about this, and most of them are in some kind of deployment process. The biggest challenge, though, that happens, and not to spoil the session because Brian gets way deep into it, is that it's all predicated on the security model that the AIs have. And in the Microsoft world, it's the permissions in SharePoint Online, basically, whatever variety it is, be it OneDrive or SharePoint Online directly or Teams. And the fact that people can share whatever they want. They can create sharing links, send it all over the place, and this potentially puts data into scope for those AI copilots. So users in the corporate environment might not know they have access to this data because it was shared by me to Kody, but I created an everyone in the org link. And now all of a sudden that's discoverable by AI copilots. So, you can, and Brian will take, if you're going to be there, go see the session because Brian will take you through an environment where we did this, where you start to search for things like, show me the bonuses. And Copilot does exactly what it does. Oh, hey, here's a super relevant document that Kody or KIlian shared to Kody about the bonuses for whatever 2024. And bloop, there's all the information. The user never knew they had access to it, but there it is. Copilot doesn't know. It's smart, but it's not smart in that way. It's going to help you fulfill the request as best as it can. So he'll take you through kind of some of the dangers there, and then some of the ways that we can go through and address these concerns to make sure that businesses are getting the benefits of it without exposing themselves to unnecessary risk. So
I love the session because it makes a lot of sense. Because when I think about people are trying to rush out AI, they want their employees to be able to find like anything that's been sent to them. Like there are so many times that I've been overshared on documentation or other things. Like I remember I worked for like a really big tech company, and like they would because at first I was a contractor, they would usher me out of the room for these meetings, and then I would immediately get shared on the notes for the meetings, like because somebody like mistakenly added me to some group. So like I've seen this happen in real time in businesses. And I know that now if there's like a Copilot, like kind of AI involved that's training on the data, like it's pretty crazy the kind of stuff that might get accidentally shared, but otherwise ignored because the employee never gets a notification. Like they don't know that they have access to it. But suddenly if they ask a question in the scope of their job, or maybe not in the scope of their job, and all this information pops up that they were technically shared on, but never like that link was just never made where like they were able to access it or even interested. That's where you get some pretty interesting and juicy data leaks. And that's also where we see some of these AI focused tools like the Python one that we covered a little bit ago. Like those are the things that people are going to now use to audit whether or not that sort of vulnerability exists. So like having a session talking about like the risk of this and what could happen, and then a tool that might actually do some of this. That's really interesting to me because I remember the Python tool is also specifically targeting Windows based endpoints or Microsoft, based endpoints. So like that to me means that maybe the time is here that threat actors are taking notice of that, and they might actually be starting to use tools to do it.
Absolutely.
All right. So we've got still a lot of news to cover. Let's go through it.
Before we do that though, Kody, I know you kind of alluded this to it, but are you doing anything at Blackhat? Anything you're running? Are you going to be there? Not that anybody admitted that they're going to be there, but
Yes. So I'm going to be at the Varonis booth for the majority of the time there, and I'm going to be doing a live stream as well as a couple new episodes of Two Truths and an AI. So speaking of sneaky AIs, I have been using an AI to concoct a bunch of news stories that sound like the kind of news stories that we cover every week. However, one of them is fake. So if you can guess the correct one, then you will win a prize at our booth. So stop by. Pretty much any day I'm going to be there. And we will be recording that. And then also we're going to have our live stream on Wednesday where we're reporting live from Blackhat. So if you've got something cool to show us, please come by. We'd love to have some guests on the stream. We had a couple people that we would have loved to come by and talk to us, but unfortunately one of them might be going to the DEF CON shoot, which apparently conflicts, and that is a bummer because that sounds like a lot of fun. So we will unfortunately have to maybe defer that to DEF CON. But
Yeah.
I will be trying to do a stream from DEF CON, and I've got some really great people who have volunteered to come by and talk to us. So stay tuned for that. I don't want to reveal their identities in case they can't make it, but it will be really awesome. And we have had them on the stream before. So really looking forward to that. All right, shall we go through the news of the week?
Let's get after it.
All right. Oh wait, now I have to share my screen again. There we go. All right. So one thing I just also wanted to mention, my friend sent this to me, and I just thought it was so cool. The Hackberry Pi Zero. Like, I barely understand what's going on here. We've made a BlackBerry into like a Kali Linux. Like, are we? And I think we're running like a Raspberry Pi Zero. I know that this is Raspberry Pi OS. I just from getting this exact same screen on my little Raspberry Pi system I set up, but I actually love this. It's so cute, and I think that it might be something that I want to try in the near future. So yeah, it's so cute. I'm very interested in this. All right, on to the news. So gonna keep this one short. Twilio kills off Authy for desktop and forcibly logs out all users. We covered that this was happening, and now that it has happened, there's a couple weird edge cases that have made it so that people do not have access to their accounts. It seems like they didn't kind of consider like all the potential scenarios where people could have had registered their accounts in one way or another. And as a result, some people are reporting problems with this. Not necessarily a security problem now, but when a two-factor method like this like makes a big change in policy and people might have been using it in a way they didn't anticipate, this could cause issues for people logging in or create opportunities for threat actors to take advantage of these users being locked out. We've got a tech support scam ringleader getting 7 years of prison. And this is for those pretty typical tech support fraud schemes where, like, you know, you'll get some really lame malware or even just like a website that just pops up over and over and over and over and makes it so elderly people can't figure out how to get rid of it. They will have to contact the number and the person will immediately then remotely connect to their computer and then cause further problems and then charge a lot of money to fix it. So the fact that this generated $6 million is pretty crazy to me. And here it's shown that they have been sentenced to 12 months and 1 day in prison and ordered to forfeit $6.1 million with supervised release for 3 years.
It's a fairly, I don't know, low, I feel like, prison sentence, but
that's exactly how I felt. If you're extorting that many like vulnerable people, like, you're going after people who really like you're stealing like their pensions and their retirement money. Like, these aren't people that have the ability to replenish that money, and it's often people that, you know, like are easily frightened or easily stressed out. So like preying on some of the like most vulnerable people in society, to me, kind of makes me feel like there must have been a great deal there. Like maybe I don't know. Like I don't really know. But yeah, it does seem like for the amount of damage caused and to the type of people, if this was like a corporate entity that had $6.1 million stolen, like I feel like they honestly would have gotten more prison time, but who knows? So we've seen Pipel packages be used often. So if you don't know what these are, it's basically when people will make a Python package or a Python library that can be imported, which just immediately imports malicious code. So there have been all sorts of ways for people to inject this. Sometimes people will take over an account and modify the code to be malicious. Other times they will put copy and paste code to trick people into like importing a library that they shouldn't be in tech support forms. So in this case, Stack Overflow was abused in order to trick people into installing some of these malicious Python libraries. Now, they would basically answer the question correctly, except they would additionally import bad code. So this was an interesting attack because it focuses on people who might be beginners and operating code that they don't understand. And that is like kind of a very clever attack because it means a level of scrutiny and also like the knowledge for whether or not something is not proper is going to be really low. So yeah, pretty wild attack, and definitely look out for this sort of thing if you're copying and pasting code, especially, I don't know, like bash scripts, Python, like you really need to know what you're doing when you're importing and using another person's library. This was an interesting attack. So some domain registrars apparently allow you to conduct this attack that lets you change the DNS resolution for a particular domain. So that means I could basically pick a domain, and if it looks like it said if the authoritative like answer for where that is supposed to
Mhm.
go in terms of like an IP address has expired, then I can pop up my own DNS server, spin it up, and basically associate it with a domain and refer people to a different website than they're supposed
Right.
to be going to. So I didn't even know that this was possible, but it doesn't require like the victim to, like click on something. It seems to mostly be a setting that is enabled by the both by the registrar and then by the
Mhm.
person who sets it up in a way that is not recommended.
Right.
So it does say, yes, it's at the registrar level, and insufficient ownership verification at DNS providers is also implicated here. So if you see this attack being referenced, it is currently being used to redirect people to potentially scam versions of
Mhm.
legitimate websites that they were trying to go to.
It's funny actually, and I don't want to spoil the rest of the stories, but this week seems like we have a lot of DNS related articles to talk about.
Yeah, well, you know what they say, it's always DNS. All right, so kind of a 1-2 punch here. We've got Concert. Since Kilian, pronounce this for me.
I would call it Syncora, maybe?
Thank you so much. That sounds right. We're going to go with that. All right, Syncora. So this is a pharmaceutical giant that I had never heard of, although they
No.
almost definitely had my personally identifiable information based on what's included in the rest of the story. So
Mhm.
they've partnered with a number of different providers to deal with a lot of data from pharmaceutical patients. So they were ranked number 10 in the Fortune 500 and number
Wow.
24 on the global Fortune 500 with a revenue of $250 billion. So they had a cyber attack disclosed in February, and they did warn that threat actors stole the personally identifiable information of patients. It seems as though they may have been the company behind a record-breaking $75
Yeah.
million payment. And we're going to have to talk about that in a separate story. But if that's true, then this is, I believe,
Big.
the largest
Yeah.
ransomware payment that at least I have ever seen.
Yeah, because I think, and there might be reference in the other story, but I want to say it was like 40 something million was the previous record.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if the other story covers that or not.
that is a massive amount of money. So if so, then that is absolutely like a huge,
Mhm.
huge score for this particular ransomware game. All right, so we've got, I feel like I'm talking about this almost every week, but we've got the FBI warning of scammers posing as crypto exchange employees and targeting people with crypto wallets. The
Mhm.
crypto scams are unending, and they're typically run by, well, all sorts of people, everyone from
Mhm.
North Korea to other like sanctioned entities to people who just want to steal cryptocurrency.
Mhm.
The scramble to steal from crypto wallet holders is endless. So just be aware that this is yet another scam that is targeting cryptocurrency exchange users, of which I am not one. So I cannot give you too many further details. All right, this is probably the worst story of the week. One
Yep.
Blood is a not-for-profit that basically like manages blood for a number of hospitals and patients in the United States. They've got a ransomware attack unfolding that is causing a blood shortage. So we've talked about hospitals getting hit. Now the infrastructure behind hospitals is
Mhm.
getting hit, and that is causing issues at the hospitals that they serve. So we've seen an example of a ransomware attack against a hospital records service provider in France that shut down a number of different hospitals. This is now something where we're going to probably see more attacks like this that are targeting the infrastructure behind critical care. So this is something where it seems like they're calling for like blood donations,
Mhm.
specifically for certain types of blood to enable people to continue to have surgeries or otherwise recover. It really seems frightening to know that there could be a blood shortage caused by a
That's
ransomware attack.
that's terrifying. And this is where the Southeast US. So I guess if you're in the Southeast US, consider maybe donating if you're one of the I think what they want, one of the O's or both of the O types.
Yeah, yeah. Type O blood. Whew, yeah. Okay. Well, that's
Oh.
scary. So in slightly less critical infrastructure, world-leading silver producer. I'm sorry if I'm more sympathetic to the blood people than I am to the silver people. It's just how I feel. But yeah, World-leading silver producer has disclosed a cyber attack on its systems. Typically, of course, we're talking about ransomware here, or like data exfiltration. In this case, we had unauthorized access to certain IT systems and data. So not, again, a ton of details here. It looks like they are not listed on the US stock exchange, and thus we didn't get one of those like K8 or whatever the filings are.
Right. I just, the funny thing, not the funny thing, but I was sort of amused by this story, is that, don't worry, we kept still digging up the silver and stuff. It's fine. So I guess lesson learned, don't AI connect your shovels if you want to keep your business online.
yeah, that seems to be the story here. And also, yeah, I just have to say, like, I really do enjoy the fact that like American companies have to do those filings that like disclose the scope of the attack. It's like you know, companies can be so vague about these sort of things, and at least in the United States now, there's at least some disclosure requirements that make it so stakeholders have an idea of what's going on. All right, this one's going to be brief. New version of Android malware is going to go after your banking credentials, and then after it's successful, can actually wipe the device, making further recovery difficult, and also making kind of forensics or any sort of like analysis of what happened difficult. So this is called Bingo Mod, and it is still currently under active development. So it's focused on code obfuscation and evasion methods to drop into an Android system undetected. So not going to go too far into this one since we still got a bunch of stories, and we're almost done for the day. But let's instead talk a little bit more about the Dark Angels ransomware group receiving $75 million. So this ransomware group has gone after a, what do we call it, whaling strategy. They are going exactly. So they're really after large companies, people who can afford to pay these monstrous ransoms, and they're not going after small groups or like businesses that they might have the opportunity to. They're kind of saving their strength for going after these large organizations where they can use their skills to make a much higher payout. Oh yeah, Kilian, you're right. The previous ransomware payment record was $40 million from an insurance giant, CNA. Yeah, so while Zscaler, who I guess helped with this, did not share the company that paid the $75 million ransom, they dramatically they limited the number of people it could have been to 50 by disclosing that they were on the Fortune 50. And that the attack occurred in early 2024, which further reduces that to the only company in the Fortune 50 to have a like major incident in that time period. Okay, well, actually, there might have been a couple others, so maybe they buried the lead a little bit, but it does certainly seem as though they were pretty straightforward about who this was. Then again, though, if you pay $75 million to a ransomware gang, it's going to be pretty hard to prevent people from figuring that out.
Yeah, exactly.
So another thing that's notable about this is most major ransomware gangs have been switching to these VMware ESXi server encryptors. A lot of critical stuff runs on these, and ever since the casinos in Las Vegas got hit by having these being exposed and basically having the ransomware threat actors be able to encrypt them, like that is now a major trend among these larger ransomware gangs.
Yeah, you can really wipe out a lot of infrastructure by targeting the underlying infrastructure. It's, you know, it's not all bare metal anymore. So if you want to take out clusters of it at once, it makes sense from a logical standpoint. The benefits of virtualization are great, but also you have a lot of damage if something goes wrong.
Yeah, and it's very difficult to know who's behind these attacks. These threat actors could be, again, anyone from like North Koreans that are trying to raise money to like gangs of teenagers. Like it's really all over the spectrum when it comes to who's behind these sorts of attacks. All right, breezing through, we've got the city of Columbus, Ohio, investigating whether data was stolen in a ransomware attack. We know that the ransomware attack happened on July 18th, which was complicated by that other thing that was happening that day. Yeah, so because of that, nobody was really sure if it was a ransomware attack or like if it was just related to the same thing. In this case, it seems like they are still investigating, and foreign ransomware actors have been blamed for the attack. All right, so this is just what I find to be an interesting story. DigiCert started mass revoking
Yep.
transportation layer security certificates due to a bug in domain validations. It looks like
Mm-hmm.
this was abused, and now so many people
Yep.
had to go through the process of renewing their certificates that, of course, there were people that didn't notice or just didn't have anyone
Yep.
available to, and this started affecting critical infrastructure. So CISA reached out and was like, hey, could you delay revoking certifications and causing all this
Right.
chaos to at least things that are like critical, and that for especially for people that are still reeling from that other thing that happened,
Mm-hmm.
you know, they're definitely going to want some extra time to get around to this certification revocation.
And the funny thing about that, and this is why I joked about it with the DNS article, is I think it was like a bug where they do like the validation and they forgot to put an underscore in between like the DNS lookup and then like a string or something that they use. I believe is what it was. So something, um, and it's been going on since what, 2019, I think. Like this has been an issue. So a missing underscore in a DNS validation is now causing all sorts of problems. Just interesting how, how these things are interconnected.
In the audience, I just noticed that people are asking, what is the DEF CON shoot? Never heard of it. Well, if you've never heard of the DEF CON shoot, it was directly responsible, at least that's the rumor. I'm just saying that's the rumor, for a like bomb sniffing dog at the Las Vegas casino that that particular part of the conference was
Mm.
hosted at. Alerted on that, shut down. There was like a whole response, and it turns out that it was someone from the DEF CON shoot who had brought back some explosive reactive targets, which are
Oh,
not
yeah.
actually, it's like,
Right.
you know, tannerite, it's like
Yep.
separated, it's two binary things that they're not put together, but that was enough to cause like an alert. So DEF
Mhm.
CON shoot, at least in rumor anyway, was apparently connected to that little disruption that there was last year. So a lot of people found out about it for the first time because of that.
Mhm.
All right, so let's get through these last stories. We've got X training Grok on your posts. This was something that was not disclosed to users, and of
Yep.
course, like a lot of people are not comfortable with their posts being used to make this random other thing that they're going to be selling any better. Unfortunately, at the moment, it is not possible to disable training on the app. Instead, you
Right.
have to do this via the web interface. So, kind of like a sneaky move here to both
Mhm.
hide the fact that they were going to be training their AI on your post and your content, and then also making it so that you have to use the web app, which is admittedly less common for people to use than I think the mobile app to access the site. So make sure to disable this. It is definitely something that you know, anybody who's contributed significant content to Twitter is going to want to enable, unless they really want to donate that data to
Right.
X.
I'm kind of surprised we're uh, let's call it 8 months into the AI revolution or however you want to term this when it like really started getting a lot of press. I'm not sure why anybody's surprised by this. There have been how many lawsuits now of AI companies training on data that they shouldn't, and it's just a matter of time before everybody gets around to it. So
Yeah,
absolutely turn it off, but like this shouldn't be a shock to anybody. We just
yeah.
have to
My
be
YouTube
more
data,
diligent. Yeah.
yeah, my YouTube contributions have already been used to, you know, like do all sorts of like YouTube training stuff. So
Yep.
I am not surprised. This was surprising to me. Apparently, WhatsApp was allowing Windows to
Oh
execute
yeah.
Python and PHP scripts with no warning. So it would
This
just, you would just click on them and they would just run.
This
Um,
bothered me so much. Like, I'll let you
yeah,
tell the story, but this bothered me a lot.
yeah. I really like I couldn't believe that that was something that you could just send to someone and like you know, open and then
Mhm.
have immediately run. Now, admittedly, like not everybody has Python installed on their computer, so
Sure.
that might limit this to like people who are a little bit more tech savvy or at least use Python. But still, I was pretty surprised that this was
Yeah.
something that actually would work.
And without we'll cover it a little bit, but the thing that bothered me most was Meta's response to this whole thing. They kind of just said like, "Shut up, it's not an issue, move along with your day." And I thought that
Yeah,
was just it, it was irresponsible. And it was just
yeah,
sort of I don't know, I found it rude. Like this personally offended me for some reason, even though like I don't use WhatsApp, but like the fact that it was so dismissed without a good reason, um, like it just I don't know, left a bad taste in my mouth for whatever it's worth. But they just kind of closed it and said, "Meh, go away."
yeah, yeah. Especially for something that seems so obvious and straightforward to
Right.
security people, like as a vulnerability. I was pretty surprised.
Hmm.
So this was pretty cool. A private company
Yeah.
worked with the French police to shut down the PlugX Malware, which is a Chinese suspected malware that is used by state actors to do all sorts of bad stuff. So creating a network of these computers is obviously very useful for command and control and doing all sorts of offensive cyber operations. So cybersecurity firm Sequoia, but spelled all cool, apparently came up with a fix for this, proposed it to the French police, and then executed it. So people that were affected by this will get a notification, and it's expected to take until the end of the year. But basically, they've authorized going through and cleaning up this malware in the same way that American cyber agencies have done in the recent past.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And then finally, we have a cybersecurity company, KnowBe4, accidentally hiring North Korean hackers. So I think I mentioned twice in the stream, like, you never know who's a North Korean hacker.
Right.
No, it's real. Like, this is something people actually need to worry about. So as a result of this, it seems as though they hired a principal software engineer who attempted to install information stealing malware on its devices.
Right.
This is kind of the worst case scenario for any company that's hiring remote workers. Like, you might find someone who seems really great, but it seems like AI was also involved here, where the threat actor was able to use AI to dodge preliminary checks and use tools to create a profile picture that matched the face of a victim during conference calls. That's so crazy.
Yeah. It's interesting. That was the part that I found really interesting about this. It's like, actually, the other thing I found interesting is, like, they went through all of this trouble to, like, get him in there, and then he kind of just, like, plugged in his USB of malware and is like, oh, it felt like it got so lazy after that. I don't know. I thought this was, the AI aspect of it was interesting to me, at least.
Yeah, no, that to me really, like, was stunning, that, like, in these sorts of crimes, AI is already making it easier for threat actors to get around the controls of, like, major security companies.
Right.
Like, that is wild. All right, so that's about all we have time for today. I actually did put the link right here. Here's Brian Vecchi. I'm sorry. So if you want to check this out, it's going to be Wednesday, August 7th. And that is our Varonis link of the week. So again, if you also want to let Varonis know you appreciate the stream, you can always go to varonis.com/Kody. That's Kody. Lets everyone know that you appreciate the stream. And I will put this link up there so you can catch Brian's. I feel like the title, like, doesn't sell to hackers as much as is contained in this, but the kind of the risk factors that are discussed here are directly related to some of the cool hacking stuff you might want to do if you're interested in AI hacking. And then also, again, I was just mentioning that there were a number of really great keynotes. So again, we've got Jan Easterly, the director of CISA, who's going to be talking nonstop throughout the conference. She's got so many different talks, but I would definitely say a fireside chat with Moxie Marlinspike is going to be really cool. A lot of people use Signal, me included, so hearing from him is going to be really interesting. And there's a lot of other great keynotes here, but those were kind of the two that I was most looking forward to. So, all right, everyone, the next time I see all of you, I think we will be at Blackhat. So if you're going to be Blackhat too, if you're just catching the stream. Oh, and I'm sorry to everybody that's been watching the stream on Twitter. It looks like they now charge for that. This is, I think, the second stream where we've gone dark on Twitter. So if you're one of my 25,000 Twitter followers, I am sorry for that. But Varonis just doesn't have much of an appetite for paying for a professional X account or like whatever is required to stream now. So if you're still with us on the YouTube channel, I sincerely thank you for coming along with us. And we will see you next week live at the conference talking about all sorts of cool Blackhat stuff. So we'll see you next time, everyone. Goodbye.